place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. And whither I go, ye know, and the way ye know.
It's about time, man, because I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to get the kingdom. I'm ready to live. I'm ready to breathe fresh. I'm ready to have beautiful, pure women, okay? Not no strawberry hollis on this side. I'm ready to have children, man, you can vibe with, okay? Be around brothers. Be around the Lord himself, okay? I'm ready to go and visit places in the galaxy that we didn't know exist, all right? I'm ready to walk on sandy beaches, man, and explore the ocean floors. I'm ready to fly, okay? I'm ready to eat real food, okay? I'm ready to drive a chariot, man. All right, I'm ready to minister to the Lord and to be ministered to, man. Okay, I'm ready to worship Yahweh in its full entirety. Okay, I'm ready for it. We're ready, man. I'm ready to see angels and greet angels.
But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit. But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit.
Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Repeat. Mars guys, how do they have the sauce and all this?
The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with God. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creature waited for the manifestation of the sons of God. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who hath subjected the same, in hope, because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption to it, the redemption of our body. I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, Thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces, like a potter's vessel. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth.
Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Mars guys, how do they have the sauce and all this?
All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Rakakwadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners, whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. All right. And what we're going to get into this morning, first, dealing with, all right, this devil, data over people, in which Esau Edom, all right, he has an ambition to set up this new world order. And within this new world order, he needs a lot of data. Okay. And he needs a way to compute, this data. And this data, computing this data and making this new world order operational requires a lot of resources as far as fossil fuels, and as far as water. All right. And this is why, he's pushing, the high gas prices, to get people off of, gasoline cars and get people on these electric vehicles, which will be more compatible, to, all right, the new world order infrastructure. Those electric vehicles will get him far more control, over, all right, the movement of people than gas vehicles. And it frees up, gas for him to fuel his data centers, And then with the water, all right, this is why he wants to depopulate. This is why he's causing certain diseases, he's letting loose, certain ticks, certain, mosquitoes that have these diseases and, parasites and, destroying the cattle, making people allergic to red meat and, because he wants to depopulate. All right. So this devil needs to depopulate to free our resources for data. Okay. Because this new world order functions off of data and the computing and the movement of data. Okay. That's how he plays the Most High in his mind, through being able to collect data, all right, and to be able to compute the data with the AI. Okay. So what we're seeing, all right, the devil, he's just, buying up all the land, he's hoarding all the resources, okay, and he's getting ready to bring crisis that's going to unalive a lot of people, okay. Because, like I say, to him, it's data over people. You had this demon, all right, Jeff Bezos. What did he say? All right, let's get this guy.
Damn, how selfish of me. Well, Jeff said you should stop drinking water because he needs it more than you eventually. Well, in a speech in Paris, Jeff Bezos said humans should consume less water because the public is not leaving enough water for AI data centers.
Damn. And that's how they feel. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos says human water consumption is limiting AI's potential. Okay, so the higher ups, are looking at you, common people, as in the way of AI's potential. Okay, and when he speaks about AI's potential, it's the potential to govern over society. Okay, that's what he's speaking about, because that's what AI, all right, is for. Is to govern over society. You see, I say they're allowing people to get familiar with it. Letting people use AI to, they can hire, AI agents for their job. People, have actual AI working for them as employees. AI employees. Okay, you have AI can assist you in particular, tools and jobs. Okay, well, that's that's not what AI is for. It's just to get you familiar with it. Okay, and to get you to take a liking to it. Okay, so as they merge, society with AI, you won't have a problem. Most people, there's a lot of people that look at AI as a great thing. Now there's a resistance movement, of course. We go into it, you see, but then there's those in the professional world that this AI, does help. Okay. So what these devils, want to do, all right, is to depopulate, which free up, more resources for AI to govern the remainder of the society, man. Okay, and this is the wicked agenda of the elites. Now, let's go from there. Let's go here to the book of Isaiah, chapter 5. All right, you go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 5, and I'm gonna get this in verse Isaiah chapter 5, verse 8. I'm reading NLT. It says, "What sorrow, all right, for you who buy up house after house and field after field, until everyone is evicted and you live alone in the land." Okay, and you look at how these devils are moving, especially with this entity BlackRock. Now, when this was spoken, this was speaking to Israelites. You had wealthy Israelites that was doing this. Buying up land. Buying up estates. Okay, to where they owned everything. They had a monopoly on the land. You're not supposed to do that. Okay, that's why even in our law, you had the the Jubilee, all right, the year of release. Okay, to where debt was released, and lands were released back to its rightful owners. Okay, because your land was your livelihood. Okay, see, we had a system that prevented, generational poverty. Esau, he wants a system that, all right, forwards generational poverty. Okay, and generational wealth. See, he wants to, these devils, they want a system of they want to double down on the system that's in place where the money trickles to the wealth, and you have a permanent class of slaves, okay, and people that are impoverished, depending on the few wealthy. You see, Esau wants a system of dependence. That's how Esau gets to play the Most High, by creating these scenarios where you have to depend on him. And this new world order will just be because right now there's a high dependency on this devil. Okay, people depend on the grid. People depend on the grocery store. People depend on gas prices, the energy prices. Okay, but he wants to take it to another level. With merging people with technology and this AI. Okay, he wants to create another level, a permanent dependency on him. Okay, on these few oligarch families. Okay, having all, having ownership of everything. Okay, and then distributing it to the masses how they see fit. Okay, and this is what this technocracy is about. It's another level of dependency that's going to be created, man. Okay, so as I say, Jake was doing this back then. Wicked Jake, the Lord sent Isaiah to cuss Jake out, because it was off. You see, Jake, and Jake learned that from the heathen, man. You see, but that's what we seeing happening now. Like I was saying earlier, you go back to BlackRock. BlackRock is the biggest investors in the data centers. Now, when you hear BlackRock, well, you have to understand that's an entity of the elites. Okay, that's an investment firm of the elites. Okay, that goes and buys up, everything. Okay, when you go into who's buying, the most houses and turning these houses into rental houses, well, it's BlackRock. Okay, which goes back to the Rothschilds. Okay, so when you hear BlackRock, you gotta think of the Rothschild, all right, banking family, man. Okay, that are buying everything up. Okay, to where people have nothing to own. Because home ownership is damn near impossible in America. That's damn near, you can scratch that off the list. Okay, in this society, in this economy, it's intentionally like that, man. Okay, because they want people to be desperate going into these times. Okay, and looking for them for a new way, to fix the chaos. Now, I got this video I want to get into. It's going to expound on it a little bit. So let's go here to this video. and show you, all right, that Esau, he's choosing data, okay, over people. Now, let's play this. And I'll put it in the, I'll go ahead and put it in the link. Shalom to you, beloved brothers, all right, and you sisters tuning in. But yeah, let's so yeah, let's play this.
So to understand how a dead data center makes your rent worse, you have to start with one thing that everyone gets wrong about housing. Look, you can blame the usual stuff like greed or boomers or private equity, and sure, that's all some part of it, but underneath all of it is pretty simple. It's a supply problem. We're just not building enough homes. And the best way to show you what's quietly making that worse is through the eyes of the one guy whose entire job it is to build and fix these things. So let's say I'm a home building construction worker. And right now, business should be booming. We have a housing shortage of around 4 million, and so the whole country needs exactly what I build. But something is off because the work I'm actually getting lately is pretty much exclusively all $1 million homes. I think that's the first thing you need to understand of what I'm about to tell you, because just like the rest of the economy, housing has also split into a K. The top is booming and the bottom isn't, because there's almost no affordable housing left in this country. Even with this,
so with this economy now, you damn near gotta be a millionaire to be a house owner, because he's saying that nothing but $1 million houses are being built. So in this current economy, you damn near gotta be a millionaire, to own the house, man.
severe shortage, especially amongst the lower income population, somehow 2024 is on track to be the slowest year for new homes since 2019. Look, it's not because guys like me are lazy. It's just that all the money, the land, and the work has started flowing somewhere else. And look, I'm just a guy who's trying to make a living, so I follow the money. And that money is here. Because building these AI data centers pay more than anything I've ever seen show up on a job site. It turns out everything I learned building your house is the same exact skills that transfer over when building one of these. And remember this because I'm not the only one. It's exactly why for the first time in modern American history, data centers are pulling in as much private money as building every single home in the country combined. These were two lines that ran parallel for the last 60 years, with home building always far ahead, but now it's basically touching. And when data centers need the same land, power, materials, and workers like myself that before was building your house, what's clear is that we're fighting for the same pile of stuff. And only one side is walking away with it all. And this war, if you want to call it that, isn't a fair fight. In Bristow, Virginia, a home builder called Stanley Martin spent years putting together a piece of land and got it approved for 514 homes after paying $51 million. Then Amazon offers $700 million for the same land. So Stanley Martin did exactly what a rational person would do. They threw out the housing plan and sold that son of a back to Amazon. So when even the people whose literal job is to build homes would rather sell that land from under you, you can see who's clearly winning. But I haven't even told you the worst part, something that I had to find out the hard way. Because if data centers are going to buy up and use all this land and resources, at the very least, you hope that they're building most of it. Well, a few months ago when I showed up to the data centers that I'm supposed to be building, it's been canceled. And when I packed up my stuff to then go to the next project 2 states over, it was again canceled. And when I called my other construction friends, what I found was a devastating pattern. Cancellations went from 2 data centers in 2023 to 6 in 2024 to 25 in 2025, and now it's even worse. In just the first 3 months of this year, 75 of them have been blocked or delayed. And experts are now predicting that only 10%.
And it shows you, according to prophecy, that this devil is in straits. He's going backwards, man. You see, and this is why he's going to have to, do something drastic, okay, to bring about this attempted new world order, okay? Because like I said, you have people, showing up All right, and the devil is running low on resources, man, because it takes, these mainly those diesel turbines. You know, they're behind because it takes so long to build them. Okay, and the diesel turbines, all right, production can't keep up with the data center. Okay, and then where all this power going to come from? Okay, so he's trying to build this thing out. All right, but he's limited. You see, and he's buying up all this land. Like I say, he's buying the land from contractors, from developers. The guy paid $51 million, to build a new subdivision. Well, Amazon comes and offers him $700 million. What is he going to do? He's going to sell it off. Okay, so instead of building new housing, okay, Esau's investing everything into the data. Okay, this new world order, this technocracy, this is Esau's pride and joy. This is the crowning of his enterprise to get this technocracy up and running. Okay, well, what's that in real quick, brother? Get that in Matthew, is it 6 and 19? Let me see real quick. We're gonna get that. Matthew 6 and 19. I think that's it. Let me see. Matthew 6 and 21. Bible shop. The brother can post that. Yeah, Matthew 6 and 21. You see? Yeah, man. Esau, he gonna have to get with it. He gonna have to get on the good foot, man. Okay? And that's why we're gonna see the devil get more impulsive, because he's frustrated. Okay? So we'll listen more of this play.
Of the data centers being planned right now will actually ever get built. So what this reveals is something dark. What this means is the K-shaped split all along wasn't just luxury homes versus affordable ones, but increasingly a split between data centers versus housing. And that split is making an already worsening housing supply even worse. But hold on, I know what you're thinking. If a bunch of these projects are about to die, doesn't that mean that the land, the workers, and the money will finally circle back eventually back to housing, right? Well, to answer that, we first have to figure out why they're dying in the first place. But before we continue, one thing I need to be clear about is that I'm not against AI. If the goal is to use it as a tool to empower human creativity, not to replace it. And that's exactly where actually leads to you having a better chance at a home. You first have to understand why data centers are getting canceled in the first place. And only then will you know if you're actually about to win. So the first reason is the grid. See, the thing about these data centers is that they take an insane amount of power, where like a single big one can pull more money than entire towns. In fact, it's gotten so bad that up to half the data centers that were supposed to come online this year are going to be delayed because the grid can't keep up. So if the literal US power grid can't take it, then that's going to mean that the land is finally freeing up for homes, right? Well, you think so, but the grid's just the start. Because the second reason is even more encouraging, considering that the smartest money in the room have quietly started backing out. Microsoft, one of the companies that kicked off this whole data center boom, walked away from at least 5 plots of land leases that it already had under contract. But it's not just land, they're also letting deals on more than 1 gigawatt of future power just expire. And the point is, you don't do that if you actually think you're gonna need these data centers. And where it gets a little bit scary too is that the banks that bankrolled the whole thing are also starting to get cold feet too. They're quietly tightening the money and trying to dump the risk before they're gonna be the ones left holding it. And when the very people who invested in this whole boom starts backing away, surely that really think so, but there's a third reason, and it's the one that actually has me believing. Because the people have had enough. In national polls, more Americans now say that they'd rather live next to a nuclear plant actually doing something about it. Because when data centers were first popping up, there wasn't much pushback because not many people really knew much about it. And besides, they were smart because they pitched it as, hey, we're going to create more jobs. And who could be against that? But after that kind of started getting discovered as bullshit, people started connecting the dots and they started organizing. In fact, there are now more than 833 opposition groups across 49 states, and that number has doubled in a single year. And all of them are fighting to protect their housing and the very land that's needed to build new homes for people like you. And that's exactly what happened in New Brunswick, New Jersey. So then this is it, right? Hundreds of residents packed into council meetings and killed the data center project cold. And as a result, that land is now headed for 600 new apartments, some of them affordable, plus space for new small businesses and even a little cute little park. So then this is it, right? Like, this is the blueprint. If the grid can't handle it, the money's starting to get pulled, and towns are actually organizing and killing these projects one by one and actually turning it into housing, then finally some good news. And finally, this might be a better chance for you to get housing next. Except, no. Because sorry, this isn't rainbows and sunshine land. Because New Brunswick was clearly an exception. And it only worked because of two things. One, the data center project was relatively tiny, and the apartments were already drawn up and approved before this fight even started. And what's instead happening almost everywhere else is a different reality. And that killing the project was never the same thing as getting the land back. What I found is something even worse that happens when one of these things shows up in your town. And once you see it, you'll understand why data center cancellations were never going to save the housing crisis and more. So let's start with the land itself. The biggest data center project ever proposed in this country was the Digital Gateway in Virginia. And similar to New Brunswick, after a lot of backlash, the developer actually walked away in April 2026. And just like New Brunswick, that land now got converted into houses, right? No, it didn't. Because once a project like this dies, what I haven't mentioned yet is how it gets tied up in lawsuits and years of rezoning fights. And as long as that drags on, nothing can be built on the land at all. So just to put it in perspective, that's 2,100 acres of development that could have been housing, but the consequences are even worse for the people who already live there. Because once a data center circles a piece of land, Uncle Sam starts valuing your house like it's already been sold to big tech. One plot near the Digital Gateway got taxed as if the value of the land jumped from $1.6 million to over $25 million, all in a single year. And so it's no surprise why 17 different homeowners are now suing the county for being taxed out of homes that they already own for, again, a data center that's never even getting built. And that's exactly the trap. Once one of these things even touches a piece of land, no home builder can ever afford it again, whether it's built or not. And just like that, the land gets locked, but maybe you're thinking, fine, just go build somewhere else. Again, this goes back to the earlier problem in that the workers that would are also gone. Electricians are essential for building both houses and data centers, but when a data center project will pay them around $35 an hour versus $20 an hour for a home builder, who the hell do you think he's going to choose to work for? And not just the rate, when electrical work is almost half, sometimes 70% the cost of a data center, he's also going to get constant work that building houses won't be able to offer. And as you can imagine, this is one of the devastating effects that it's having on the housing supply. And this shortage of workers is what's also impacting the shortage of homes. A home builder in Texas said that it now takes him 2 extra months to finish a house just because so many electricians are now getting pulled for data center jobs. And I'm sorry to keep saying this, but it's only going to get worse, because what we're already seeing is that even with these string of data center cancellations, these electricians also aren't returning back projects, because just like traveling during the pandemic, many Christians are also now traveling to chase the next project, even if it's in different states. So if the workers aren't coming back and the land is now a trap, then at least we can still count on the power of the people, right? Because with enough backlash, what's stopping us from bringing back housing too, just like how we've been able to cancel data centers, right? Well, here's a thing that nobody myself included, haven't told you. What actually happens when attack these data centers is through all-out bans. Bans that almost always freezes way more than data centers. In Madison, the city admitted that its zoning code didn't even have a word for a data center, so to write new rules, they had to freeze new big developments across the board. And in Aurora, Colorado, data centers were legally counted as warehouses, so when they paused these data centers, they also accidentally paused every warehouse-sized project in the city, including housing. So the best way to think of this is like you're fumigating your entire house just to kill one nest. And sure, the bugs are now gone, but including the rooms that you actually wanted to live in. And not to...
And you people lose, man. You know, this is a society set up for the poor, okay, to lose. Okay? As the rich, you know, they get to jump through these loopholes. Okay, they get to pay off, you know, local governments, federal governments. Okay? And it's always going to work in their favor. Now, you have, like we say, this land, you know, here it is. Just when, you know, if, let's say, Meta, you know, they want to buy some land, like I said, that land that was 1.6 million, but after they, you know, announced a data center on that land, now that land is 25 million, and you have to pay taxes based on their property value increase, even if they don't even build a data center. You see? And then no contractors can come and buy that land because it's too high now. They can't afford that land anymore, you know, to build new subdivisions. You know, so this is the Lord packing up America, man. Okay? This is the Lord packing America up, all right? And the elites, they don't care about new housing because they finna get rid of people, okay? It's going to be a lot of empty houses in the time to come, you see, for a short time. And then this place going to get nuked anyway, you see? So at the end of the day, everything that's being done is vain because 2 Peter chapter 3, you know, let's get that 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 10 through 12 as well. Okay. I'm going to segue to this article and then get a couple of you brothers' precepts. You see? So, let's keep this. All right, this the brother you call Hopeful 144, Matthew 6 and 21. It said, "For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." And Esau treasures this new world order, this technocracy. Okay, and he's showing you what his mind is at by what he's investing in. He's going all out. Even if he don't have the resources, man, he's just going all out. Okay, he's going all out to build out the digital grid. Okay, the digital system and the digital infrastructure, you know, because his heart is into this technocracy, man. You see, and this devil thinks that if he can establish a technocracy, merge people with technology, that he can win. You see, that he can outdo the prophecy, man. But ultimately, he's fulfilling prophecy, man. Trying to pull this off is him fulfilling prophecy. You see? So this devil, you know, was set up for failure from the beginning. Okay? And that's why I say 1 Peter. All right, you go into 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 10. This is brother Yashima, tribe of Judah. "But the days of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat." Okay? So what's going to do that? Nukes. So all this fight over data centers and, you know, over housing, it's not even going to matter soon, because the Lord is going to nuke the whole landmass of America. Every data center, okay, every house, every subdivision, okay, every interstate, all of it, every bridge is going to be melted with fervent heat. Okay, so what you people are protesting and marching for is in vain, and what Esau, Edom, these elites doing, it's in vain. Everything that's happening is in vain. You know, I believe that's my brother won't get that Psalms 127 and 1, Bible shop. Okay, it says, "And the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burnt up. Okay? So everything that these people are fighting and protesting for, and I say, and what these elites are trying to build out, is all going to get melted in fervent heat. You know, because America has the world's most data centers, man. Okay? And it's not going to matter. You see, Esau even got plans, you know, for America, man. It's like he's turning America into a big data center hub, you know, that's going to run, you know, this global system. You see? But the Lord's going to destroy this thing, man, because the Lord knows the agenda of Esau, and he's going to interrupt it, man. Okay? Like we always get finish this. 2 Peter 3:11 says, seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of person ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness, man? So what manner of person should we be? Hey, should we be like IUIC protesting for some goddamn Nolan Wells, man? Okay, there was judgment. Well, however that played out, you know, there was judgment, man. Okay? We're not here to get caught up and entangled in these, you know, these civil affairs of this world. Nah, man, we got to look at the bigger picture, man. The Lord finna destroy all this, man. All right, so we should be tapped into our power. Okay? We should be tapped into the bigger picture of things, man. You see, protesting for some goddamn Nolan Wells. Ain't no victory in that. And that's just the latest example. Okay? When these men are supposed to know, you know, the truth. But no, what manner of person are you to be, man? We should be on our watch, watching for the return of Yahushua, man. Okay? That's what we on. You see, what manner of person are we to be, man? Constantly, you know, pouring into ourselves, man, pouring into the body. You know, preparing the way for Yahushua, man, preparing our minds, preparing the minds of the church for Yahushua, man. You see, because he's at hand. These events are leading to the second coming, man. Okay, so verse 12 it says, "But the day of the Lord," here we go, verse 12. So, like I said, looking and hastening until the coming of the day of the Most High. Yeah, man, that's what we on, man. Because we go into these things because this is telling us how close we are to Yahushua. That's why we look into these things. Okay, it said, looking for and hastening until the coming of the day of the Most High, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Okay, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. You see, so we're looking for our power, you know, the return of our power, man. You see, we're not here to protest, okay, and do these vain things, man. You see, because we know the end game for America anyway. All right. And I say that's the Lord packing up America, man. You American, you don't need no more subdivisions. Okay? You don't, nigga, you see, that's that you trying to get comfortable. You see, your stay, okay, your occupation of America is coming to an end. Okay, the Lord is finna evict everybody, okay, from America, man, through judgment, through destruction. Okay, everyone except the elect is finna get evicted. Okay, and see, we're gonna be delivered. See, with you Americans, you're finna be evicted through fire. Okay, so you don't need another apartment, another subdivision, nothing. Okay, the judgment is on the way. This Psalms 121:1. It says, this is a brother called Hopeful 144 says, except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that built it. Okay, and it goes from Esau, you know, trying to establish his technocracy. You know, Esau is he trying to upgrade his house. You know, it's like Esau trying to remodel his house. Okay, through technology, man. Okay, but is he building it in vain? You know, so every data center, every flock camera, every every technology, every device that he's using, okay, within this digital infrastructure, it's all in vain. You know, everything that he's doing is in complete vain. The new laws he's making, like, nigga, you at the end. Them laws ain't finna be here that long. Okay, you're in the end of your kingdom. You see, you're not finna have the ability to make a law soon. All right. It says they labor in vain that built it, and it says, except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. And the Lord's not going to keep America, man. America is slated, all right, for destruction, complete annihilation, man. Okay. Yep. Let's get this, the brothers, to GMS DC Tazadakta Yara'ah 144. Wisdom Solomon 14:8. It says, but that which is made with hands is cursed, as well as he that made it. Yeah, because this technocracy is nothing but an idol. You know, because Esau has made, you know, this AI idol. You see, and just because it can talk, okay, it's able to listen. You see, it's still a dumb idol. Okay, that's why it needs so much for it to operate. You see, it takes so much just to get it to, you know, to give out these responses and these replies. It takes a lot. You know, this man is destroying the earth to make his idol talk. Okay, but what the devil has built is cursed, and he's cursed, man. It says because he made it, and because being corruptible, it was called God. Yeah, because people are looking at this technology as God-like. You know, there's people that saying, oh, you know, I said you got that resistance, but then you have people that look at, okay, this technology with awe. You know, verse this Wisdom Solomon 14:9 says, for the ungodly and his ungodliness are both alike hateful unto the Most High. For that which is made shall be punished together with him that made it. Okay, for that which is made shall be punished together with him that made it, man. So you devils are going to be punished, okay, with your with your idol. AI is going to be destroyed, okay. Your infrastructure is going to be destroyed. Your cities are going to be destroyed, okay. Your infrastructure is going to be destroyed, and a lot of you Edomites going to be destroyed, man. Okay, and the remnant of you Edomites going into captivity, man, because you got a lot of cleaning up to do, man. Okay, verse 11, it says, therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles, there should be a visitation. The Lord's going to visit, okay, the idols of the Gentiles. And right now it's AI, because all these heathens, okay, are hyped up off the AI. You know, Elam, all right, you know, Moab, Ammon, Ishmael, all of them are hyped up off the AI. Okay. It says, because in the creature of the Most High, they have become abomination and stumbling blocks to the souls of men and the snare to the feet of the unwise, man. Okay. And this AI is a major reason why, you know, people trust in technology. You know, people look to technology above looking to how Bashim al-Shah. Okay. The one true power, true wisdom, you know, the source of wisdom. People are looking at AI as like the source of wisdom, man. You know, so people have erred greatly, you know, through this man's technology, through this AI, and this hope, you know, for a new world utopia. Now you got this devil here, all right, Bill Gates, and he said Bill Gates says revolutionary digital ID will exclude non-compliant citizens from banking, healthcare, and education. You know, so we know that the CHIP, you know, is going to be a form of ID as well. Okay, it's going to be included in the CHIP. Okay, and what he's saying is, if you don't have it, okay, you're going to be excluded from society. Non-compliance is going to have you excluded from society. Okay, it says Americans who want to continue using banking services, healthcare, and education must comply with incoming digital ID regulation, according to Bill Gates, who has doubled down on his threat to exclude the non-compliant from participating in society. Praising digital infrastructure in developing countries such as India and China, Gates declared that the United States must build similar systems with the support of governments, the Federal Reserve, internal institution, and private companies. Yeah, man. So they got to get you Americans caught up. Okay, because these other countries already have these things implemented. You see, they got to get America caught up. And that's why they can bring the pain to you Americans, man. You see, you Americans have no idea, all right, that you're in the crosshairs, okay, of great judgment, man. It says, once established, he says banks, telecom firms, and technology companies can build additional services on top of the digital identity framework, and non-compliant citizens will be locked out of the system. Okay, and let's play this, man. The Bible tells us these things. You know, we was warned of these things, okay, way before this article, man. Okay, you know, the Lord had these things written thousands of years ago of what time the devil was going to be on at the end. Okay, so let's play this.
Well, we believe having the ability to save and transact is something that should be universal, and a lot of forms have adopted that goal. We won't be able to do that with traditional systems. That is, the cost of bank branches and paperwork, it's just too high. But fortunately, starting with countries like Kenya, and more recently with a robust system in India, we see that you can have digital financial inclusion. India is a great example. They did technology, which won't be possible for other countries. And so the role of the Gates Foundation as an advocate for those who don't have access today is to make sure there's technology and standards, including open source work that we're providing through the financial switch, which is called Mojaloop, and through the for financial activities, but for health and voting and education, and that's called MOSIP.
So since there isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all solution, what is the role that you see the private sector playing in being able to collaborate with different governments to ensure that we move forward?
Well, once you have the digital money system, then there's all sorts of services and applications that can be built on top of that, whether it's helping with health or education or agriculture, you know, giving people visibility into their financial status, giving them advice, you know, should they take a loan, should they buy insurance, what makes sense. The phone becomes a connection for low cost interaction with those customers that doesn't require human activity that, you know, would be beyond the means of the people we're trying to get to who don't yet have these accounts. So the digital revolution, which of course was where I worked before moving full-time to the foundation, here we're trying to make sure that the developing countries have the benefit of the digital revolution, in some cases before it gets to even some of the rich countries who have legacy systems that people are so used to that the speed that they'll transition out of them you know, won't be as fast as, say, China or India that didn't have that history. And so it's really learning what worked in China and India, and now making it easy for even smaller countries to do this, working with a lot of partners, including the World Bank, African Development Bank, many of them. So private sector.
Yeah, see, it's easy, you know, say. So basically, he's saying that it's easier for them to do it, you know, that's why China and India is so far ahead, because they didn't have to tear down as much. You know, it was more of a blank canvas. All right. And they was able to develop, you know, their social credit system, the digital public infrastructure from scratch. Okay. And then in these, what they call underdeveloped. Okay. And then these nations are underdeveloped because of these devils, man. You know, they act like it's just circumstances that these certain nations which are rich in all these resources are underdeveloped. They're underdeveloped because of this economic system, okay, where these devils steal all the resources, okay, and the profit goes to what? These few oligarchs, man. Okay, leaving, all right, the different countries, what they call underdeveloped or developing. You know, that's the new political term to say third world countries, developing countries. Okay, but he's saying, well, we're trying to make it to where now they have access. You know, through this technology, it puts everyone on the same playing field. Okay, so now the developing countries have the same access to banking and healthcare and these different things through technology. You know, so technology is creating this utopia, okay, where everyone's included, even in developing countries. Okay, and then they know in America, because he's saying it's a little harder. Basically, he's saying it's a little harder in America because America got all these systems already set up, the institution, what they call legacy systems. Okay, it's a lot that has to be torn down in America, man. That's why it's going to be the worst place to be in is America, because they got a lot to tear down, you know, to begin to implement this new system. You see, that's why it's going to be a time like no other. Okay.
Will help these central banks create these systems, but moreover, the phone companies, the banks, and the entrepreneurs will build applications that use these financial capabilities.
Yeah, man. So, and we're going to get there real quick. So let's go here. But then that's that article right there. Brothers want to, tap into that. But let's go here to the book of Revelation. We was told these things. You see, our power put us on game on how the devil would be moving, man. When you go into, all right, Revelation 13 and 15, it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Okay. And you go into Esau during the Renaissance. Well, when the devil came back into power, okay, the higher ups, what did they begin to do? They began to establish their Greco-Roman Empire back in the earth, man. And as he's advanced with his technology, man, he has really, brought the image of the beast to the forefront. That pagan, Roman, all right, empire is at the forefront of society, man. Okay, it said that the image of the beast shall both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Okay, and when you look out in society, the devil, has caused, the Greco-Roman Empire to be alive and well. The culture of pagan Rome. Okay, the gods of pagan Rome. You see, and the people that ruled pagan Rome. All right. These things are back, man. The nightlife. Okay. Even Rome had, a form of social media. The poets were like, the rappers of the day. Back then, these poets, okay, the actors and the plays, and, which are like these movies, these movie stars and celebrities. It's all back, man. And now you put AI in the mix. Okay, it's just idol, it's just speaking, an all-knowing idol. Okay. So it says, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast, that they should be killed. And what did he say? If you're not compliant, you're going to be excluded, because when you go into the word kill, of course, it's going to get to the point, all right, where the chip is going to be mandated by death. Okay, but before it gets to the point where it's mandated through death, you go into this word kill, it will go to the root word. Let's get this get the root word, Salaki.
Strong's G 575. Apa.
Ah,
Apa.
yeah, apah, which means what it says, a separation. Okay, a separation of a part from a whole. Yeah, you'll be excluded from society. You won't be able to participate. You'll be separated if you don't have this technology. Okay. It said any kind of separation of one thing from another by which the union or fellowship of the two is destroyed. Yeah, so we're going to be completely separated, from this system without this technology, man. Won't be able to pay bills and pay your car notes. Okay, no grocery store. All right, no fast food, no restaurants. You see, be completely separated without this technology, man. Okay, so the state of separation that is of a distance, and this is why we should be tapped into our power. Okay, this is why we should be tapped into our power, because the Lord says there won't come a time when, look at this, Isaiah 10. Okay, this is the book of Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 20. It says, "This shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them." You see that? That remnant. So it's a remnant that's not going to be dependent on this devil. Our Lord has promised to work a mighty work in these last days. Okay, and provisions are already promised. You see, so we're not going to depend on the one who smote us, man, Esau, but shall stay or depend upon the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai, the Holy One of Israel in truth, man. And we're going to make it through miracles, man. And our Lord is going to show power, okay, in these times of distress. Verse 21 said, "The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty power," man. And this word has turned us back to our power. The preaching of this word going forth has turned the remnant back to their power, man. Okay. Yeah, so let's go here. Play this video. Because like we was speaking on yesterday, all right, with the way Iran was striking those radars, it's like they were setting it up, to start coming with waves of missile strikes, man. Okay. So let's see. Yep. Let's go here. All right. And it says Iran missiles keep coming. Okay. So let's play this.
Viral footage claims to show U.S. Patriot air defense systems failing as Iranian ballistic missile slam into American air bases. Iran says its latest missile barrage exposed serious weaknesses in U.S. air defenses, while fresh strikes continue targeting American military positions across the region. Tehran claims its expanding drone campaign is overwhelming Patriot missile batteries, raising fresh questions over Washington's ability to defend its regional bases. As Iran continues launching wave after wave of missiles and drones, the United States is facing mounting pressure to contain an increasingly dangerous regional conflict. Viral footage circulating online claims to show Iranian ballistic missiles striking a U.S. airbase in Jordan during the latest phase of the conflict. The videos appear to show multiple missiles evading or overwhelming U.S. Patriot air defense interceptors before reaching their targets. The clips have been widely shared across social media, though their exact location has not been independently verified. Military analysts believe the footage may show Azraq Air Base or Prince Hassan Air Base rather than King Faisal Air Base. Iran has repeatedly targeted US-linked military facilities in Jordan as fighting between Washington and Tehran continues to escalate. Tehran insists its missile and drone campaign is aimed exclusively at American military forces and not the Jordanian people. Iranian state media describe the attacks as part of a sustained retaliatory military operation against US forces in the region. The latest strikes come amid successive waves of Iranian missile and drone operations across multiple locations in the Middle East. Another viral video claims to show a Shahd drone striking a US military facility inside Kuwait. The footage allegedly captures a large explosion after the drone appears to breach US air defenses. So far, neither US nor Jordanian officials have officially confirmed the authenticity of the viral strike videos. The missile campaign continues to intensify as the United States and Iran exchange fresh rounds of military strikes across the Gulf.
Yeah, man. So just as, we spoke on, yesterday, how Iran, when they start striking the radars, they're softening it up, okay, for a continued campaign, all right, of missiles and drones, man. You see, and see, no one talks. Everyone talks about, America, this mighty military, but American, all right, military has poor manufacturing, all right, because those missile defenses, they can only make, 8 to 9 projectiles a month for those Patriot missiles, which Iran can produce, 500 to 1,000 drones a month. Okay, so if you have, let's say 500 drones, okay, being produced a month, and you can only produce 9 projectiles to stop them, then you through. Okay, so these, few weeks, these few months where the fight has been, real limited, they ain't been doing much. Okay, what you think? Okay, Iran has been doing. They've been manufacturing. They got more missiles than they had in March. They got more drones than they had in March. Okay, and every time they start this war, America run out of missile defense systems. Okay, quick, because it can't keep up with the manufacturing, man. Okay, so what we're seeing, all right, is America and its allies over there in their region, okay, in the Persian Gulf, they're just sitting ducks, man. And Iran is able to hit at will and destroy military assets. Okay, so it's going to see how these devils are going to try to get out of this one, man, because they locked back. They started the war, and it's just a continuation of the previous war, man. Okay, belt to ass continued, man, and it's going to be the same thing. All right, all the way throughout this war, and it's just going to drag more nations into it. Okay, which Yemen, they've been shooting down, Saudi Arabian drones. Okay, they declared Saudi Arabia airspace a no-fly zone. You see, so they got their thing they going, so it's just going to continue to escalate, and if they do a ceasefire, it's just going to pause, and then it's going to hit play again. It's going to pick up right where they left off, man, all the way until the time where Yahweh shot. Okay, so this devil, he's scrambling with these data centers. Okay, he's also catching hell in this war, man. So what's that? We can end that on let's get Job chapter 18. Let's get Job 18 and verses. Yeah, Job. Let's get Job 18 and 14. Bible shot. I think that's it for the videos I have. Let's post it in Job 18 and 14. Yeah, and there's some more news coming out later on, dealing with the damage assessment. What's been going on with these strikes back and forth. So I'll tap in tomorrow, kind of see what kind of damage been done. Let me see. I want to do this too. Let's see, man. I want to put this up here real quick. Copy. So yeah, this is just a link, to the new main camp page. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the GMS Mississippi main camp page. I'm just putting that link up there. But yeah, let's get this real quick. This is the brother servants of Yahweh Shai 144. It says Job 18 and 14. It says his confidence shall be rooted out of his tabernacle. Yep. You see, Esau's confidence is beginning to wane. Okay, his military is not effective. Okay, as it once was. All right, people are beginning to call out his AI for the gimmick that it is, the fraud that it is. Okay, So his confidence is waning because things are not working in his favor like it once was. All right. He saw there was one time when he was operating with the wind to his back. Okay. Now he's going against the grain. And prophecy is grinding this nigga down, man. You know, so he got one more hoorah, okay, where he gonna go crazy, okay, on the American public, okay, and mandate this MOTB. You see, and then that's when this war is gonna escalate beyond his control, and it's gonna usher in Yahweh shot, man. So, yeah, man, the devil, his moves are, we know the Lord God to where we know this nigga every move. Okay, Esau ain't got no options. Okay, Esau got to make these last few moves and he's out of here, man. Okay, so this Job 18:4 say his confidence shall be rooted out of his tabernacle, and it shall bring him to the king of terrors, and that's gonna be Yahweh Shai, man. Okay, so when this nigga get through with all this tackiness and you know trying to come from this angle and come from that angle and you know this gimmick and that gimmick, once he get through and get to a certain point, it's gonna bring him to the king of terrors, man, and that's it for him. Okay, so yeah, this man days are numbered. All right, so yeah, we'll leave it there. You know, Lord will, you know, we'll tap in the morning, look at some more stuff, but Lord will, you know, you brothers, all right, and you few sisters edified, you know, the water, you know, for y'all tuning in, you know, until next time, say shalom, you know, Kwam Yashala, Bible, Baal, soon, shalom.